My gosh, that was one of the most incredible finales that I have seen in a long time. Lord of Mysteries, episode 13. Absolute cinema. The fight scene was incredible. I'm heartbroken over Dunn, even though I seen it coming from a mile away. I'm shocked by potentially Klein getting Mushoku Tensei donated by Orsted out of nowhere. He still survives in the end, and then we go right into like the later part where we get into the quill that mastermind everything. So we've been kind of predicting that for a while now, that the quill was writing this all into play. But yes, ultimately building into what possibly could be the future for the story itself. And all the while me crying over the fact that Melissa's got her heart broken like massively. My poor Melissa. I hope she got a hint from that. I hope that she got a hint from that, like, oh, it's him, but I can't say anything. Something, please just give me some hope that she knows. My poor Melissa. Girl needs to be happy. The turtle got me, dude. It was the turtle that got me, dude. The turtle that she brought to him to try to help him calm down. She was doing the whole ticket thing to help him out, and he always ignores her. And then right here, anyways. Where do we even start? Let's kick things off by talking about Dunn. Because I think Dunn in this episode was obviously MVP. Guy was absolute epic. Like, just stepping forward, saying, hey, guys, give me 10 seconds. Even though that was an incredibly long 10 seconds. He's like, count to 10. It's like, that's not 10 seconds. Dude stepping forward, like, just going crazy. At some point, it looked like he was actually losing control of his Beyonder abilities. Because he was, like, morphing into something big. But then he just, like, shrugs it off. Dude's like so freaking badass, which implies in the episode they wanted him to be nerfed. Like they were trying to take him down, so they actually did the whole thing with Kinley in order to stop him. They said at some point that he essentially had him consume Kinley like he always does. That stunted his growth. I'm not sure why. Like what about Kinley specifically that messed with his growth? But yeah, him just stepping forward, freaking ripping out his heart, sticking on the freaking ashes, like sacrifice just to make himself all powered up, and then steps forward and just like locks the thing down, and then the thing gets taken out, then he just turns to Klein and said, we did it. We saved Tengen. I'm like, holy crap, this dude is such a freaking Chad, dude. This guy is too freaking badass. I don't want him to go. Klein, you're sort of like a deity. Like, you survive this whole situation, which I have another explanation for why he survived, but, like, you're God, dude. Like, just bring Dunn back. Just bring Dunn back. He tried with the potion. Like, use your smoke powers on his chest. You know, just put a heart in there. Come on, dude. Just, Azek, dude, I know you're on the way, but can you come straight here? Don't stop by McDonald's. You gotta come straight. No, you don't have to pick up anything on the way. No, get out of the convenience store. You have to get in the car and get here now. Somebody save Dunn. It sucks. It sucks. Could have buried one of the whistles with him. Anyways, Dunn was badass. Dunn was an absolute badass. And it does look like, by all accounts, yes, technically Klein is the main character. It sort of gives a sense here that for this event, Dunn was the main character. Dunn was the primary target. Dunn was the hero. Dunn was the primary target for the antagonist. This was the threat in my way. This was the only thing that I could get what I wanted to achieve. And I hate this thing. Apparently this Zangwill did not like Dunn. He wanted Dunn gone. And it seems like Klein sort of derailed that a bit. But rip Dunn. Rip my boy Dunn. Poor Dally too. At some point he's like, we did it, Klein. And he just like, Dally. And then it like cuts over to Dally and she's all upset too. Like she got the picture of Dunn with her. Like they were going on dates together. The two of them were a thing. It sucks, dude. It sucks. I hate it. Anyways, Dunn aside, what else do we have in this episode? I guess we could talk very briefly on Leonard. Very interesting to see in the opening segment. He does get the blood vessel thief. He says it suits him. Which I'm wondering if that's because he has some sort of ability that does keep his vitality, because it does drain somebody's vitality. So I wonder if he has that, or he just likes the idea of taking abilities. It never really implied exactly how that works, if it puts it into the artifact, or if the person gets the ability. Because I'm wondering now, because the only thing that it implied, he did use still. He used it. And the only thing I can think of is at some point he says submit. And I'm wondering if that's something that he stole from the true creator, the child in the belly. Did he steal the ability of submit, or was submit part of the Midnight Poets? I don't think he's ever used submit before, so I'd assume that's the ability he took. Does he still have it? That's the question mark. Does he still have it? I'm curious. I'm really curious. At some point, he also does get knocked down. He does call out for the old man, which, I mean, he could be talking about Neil, But Neil wasn't really technically shown as present until the later parts, with Dunn stepping up with all the other, members of the Nighthawks that all come at his side. Was really badass, by the way. Seeing old man Neil again. He's like, "What's up, Klein? What's up, Klein?" And oh yeah, Kinley, we never knew you. But yeah, as he's being knocked out, he says "old man." So I'm kind of wondering if the person in the shadow is the old man. Is it somebody that is related to him, or just some old fellow? Or I mean, it could be a term that's just used for somebody their senior. So the person in the shadow could just be an older fellow, an older spirit, and he just calls it old man. I don't know. It does seem like he kind of talks down to him quite a bit, calls him a fool and whatnot in the previous episodes. That could be it. All else that we had for Leonard was later on at some point, after everybody's dead, Dunn's dead, Klein's dead. At some point, Sika comes in there, said that there's this last message they got from the Holy Church. It's not deciphered. Which that could have been what was at the very beginning. I think the very beginning they had a message that said something to the effect of "be cautious." But she says that the red gloves are after them and knows who did it. And he says, "How do I become a member?" So it implies that Leonard wants to become a red glove just so he can go after whoever did this. Which I don't doubt it. Again, the one thing that sticks in my head for Leonard's character is what he said to Klein at some point. "You can have your secrets. I have my secrets. We don't get into each other's business. But never touch the Nighthawks. Don't know who you are. Don't know why you're special. You got something about you. Just don't touch the Nighthawks." That was his thing. Don't do this one thing. Anyways, that's Leonard. Very, very cool stuff there. The rest of the fight, I don't think there's really anything else to really kind of point out here, other than Klein, trying to use his charm over and over again until the very end when he's able to finally use it. Seeing Dunn die, stepping forward, and wanting to kind of reach out to him, but then suddenly, again, Orsted donut. Turning point 1 donut to the chest from Mushoku Tensei. Donut right to the chest, heart right there. Oh, hey, that's not supposed to be there. Wasn't seeing that coming. I kind of assumed that the impaling from the beast was going to be what was sort of going to be like the final hit for him. But it seemed like he was still in the fight. And then at some point, he actually does get like a cut on his chest or his heart itself, which I assume could be healed. It all kind of builds up to, this final strike from this Zangwill. Zangwill showing up out of nowhere, freaking stabbing him, ripping his heart out, walking over there, grabbing the ashes. That was, again, to my prediction. I assumed that the ashes were going to be what the mastermind wanted. The moment that Dunn took that out of there, and again, it was mainly because of the fact that the quill was being narrated over it. That was a big dead giveaway. Why was the quill, this thing that's seemingly orchestrating everything, why would it want Dunn to get the ashes out? And this being this like core to the Channis Gate, it makes sense. This thing's extremely important. That's what they're after. Nothing to do with anything else. Everything else does. They even imply that later on with the quill. It literally implies later on, this was just a part of it. The Fallen Creator being involved was just a part of it. They needed something really, really big happening to force Dunn to have to take that ashes out of there. Because I think it's going to come down to the idea of, Klein even points it out at some point. It can't be just all powerful. It can't just make anything happen. It sort of plays into something I've seen similar to how Bungo Stray Dogs handled this type of concept. It's the idea that things have to actually play out in a logical manner. You can't just tell somebody, just walk off this cliff. It has to make logical sense. It has to be a sequence of coincidences. It has to play out in a way that seems natural, but it serves your favor. And so you have to create this big, insane problem that would make Dunn want to go, yeah, I do need to get the ashes. This is something I need to do. It points out that this was a massive mistake for him to make, and he could probably acknowledge that. But that was the only thing at the time to take down the Fallen Creator, who is now descending into this massive, ugly Pregger mutation thing. It makes sense. Again, I like that kind of concept there. But let's get into what the quill says. Yes, Klein eventually does pass out, and the quill pops up. And the quill starts actually narrating. I'm assuming it's the quill, because he says, "At last I am free. It's been so long." And it cuts to him being used by Zangwill. And this, of course, is the archbishop that lost control and the Holy Cathedral's after him. What Dunn was talking about when Klein showed him the wanted poster after Neil died. This is that guy. The guy that took the artifact, sealed artifact 008, the quill. He says that Zangwill was the mortal that summoned me from behind the Channis Gate. Again, so this is an archbishop that apparently went to the Channis Gate, summoned up the quill, took it, and ran. And again, it seems like the church itself is claiming that he lost control Go find him. If you see him, you gotta tell the church right away. He's out of control. Now this guy's seems like he's very much so in control. He desired to obtain Saint Selena's ashes from Tengen City. Again, confirming right there what I was suspecting. He only came there for that one thing. Yes, this mortal, like any other, harbored petty little secrets. Such things matter little. It's so interesting to sort of give this artifact personality. By it saying such things matter little, it almost sounds like the quill itself is a personality. Again, he technically says, at last I'm free after so long, I've been in the Chennis Gate. This thing has sentience, which is interesting. Because again, each one of these artifacts are technically something that comes from a Beyonder. The Beyonder dies and they expel this thing from them because these characteristics don't just disappear. They have to go to an object. And I'm assuming this quill was from a Beyonder, which makes me believe that possibly the Beyonder is within the actual quill itself. Could the Beyonder that it expelled from be that consciousness, ? I'm kind of curious. That's when it starts to play out pretty much season 1. It literally plays out everything from the very beginning, a little bit before the very beginning of the first episode. Goes right into Klein. After the dark divination, the survivor Klein, under the influence of the notebooks, goes and delivers it to Ray. And again, that was what they were investigating in the first episode. A coincidence that made logical sense. Again there, it's confirming it has to be something that makes logical sense. For him to go to Ray Baber, it has to have some sort of logic behind it. It can't just be, go drop it off over here. It has to have a logic behind it. And then he shot himself. So there's a confirmation there that yes, the original Klein, before the main character enters his body, he was forced to do that. This is not something that he was going to do. And again, it does still technically fall under the logical sense area there because he just witnessed the death of his friends. It has to have something that sort of pushes him over the edge. Strangely, he doesn't die. Somehow he survived and joined the Nighthawks. Not only did he survive, but he also killed a Sequence 7 member of the Secret Order, which infuriated Zangwill. But fortunately, the outcome did not deviate from expectation. Then it goes into Dunn Smith, and the fact that his spirituality suffered tremendous damage. And it shows a scene where Dunn got that brief glimpse of the fallen creator, or the true creator. I wish they elaborated a little bit more on that, because I wasn't really sure. Was that when he started actually coughing, I wonder? I wonder. I don't know necessarily that was sort of a key point in a lot of his emotional damage, because he's always been emotionally damaged. This is a guy that's seen the death of so many of his comrades. That scene was way before Neil's death, was definitely far before Kinley's death. I'm kind of curious about that. It could be strictly the fact that because he witnessed the fallen creator through that vision, it impacted his spirituality, not just him personally. Of course, even back then, the ritual to the true creator's descent, the deity had already seen through the coincidences of these events. But since he wished to break through his shackles, he did not refuse, implying there the true creator wanted that ritual in order to put him inside of Mikose. It accepted it. It's implying it knows the quill's doing it. Everything that's playing out so conveniently to bring me in there is being orchestrated by something. It knew the quill was doing this, and it knew that it was playing out whatever the quill wanted, but it did it anyways because it wanted to get in there. Like, sure, use me. If I can get that door open, why not? Use me, sure. And then I'll take control later on, and then you'll be under my spell. Very interesting. It was truly astonishing how Klein, despite everything, sensed Zangwill's secret influence, and even helped Dunn master the acting method. No, Zangwill refused to accept it, changed his original plan, and this implies right here that he had some sort of path he was going to go, which does kind of make me wonder if the original plan that Zangwill had was possibly just to use the true creator to go after the ashes directly. Right here, it makes me believe that because Klein is helping out Dunn, he chose instead to find a route to force Dunn to have to take the ashes out himself. Either way, I think the ultimate goal was to kill Dunn. It implies that he did not like Dunn, which makes me believe that possibly Dunn was involved with Zangwill when he was an archbishop, and possibly what Dunn did exposed him, maybe? I don't know. But he changed his plan, and it goes right into Dunn consuming Kinley's leftover Beyonder characteristics, but it says as a result, his acting and digestion process was interrupted. What? That's the only part where I'm feeling like the translation that I have might be a little messed up there. But the translation note says that they cross-referenced it with the novel, so I'm not sure if that's true. But we know that at this point he's being wrote to do that. Again, the quill is telling him to do that. The quill has sort of made all this kind of play out, and as a result, Dunn is going to consume Kinley's characteristics, his Beyonder characteristics. But for some reason, that thing put a halt to the growth of Dunn, which is interesting. But that does make sense because the end result is Klein was trying to make Dunn more stronger. He showed him the active method. Dunn was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And so as a result, Zangwill would have to do something to stop Dunn from getting more and more powerful. How does he do that? Have him consume Kinley, and that will make his acting and digestion process be interrupted. That's what I'm thinking it's saying there. Because what they're doing there is they're trying to force Dunn not to be able to handle the situation with the true creator being descended and have to go to the Channis Gate to get something to fight back. Until eventually the quill can tell him, hey, get those ashes. You can't do it without the ashes. I need you to get it out of that room. Because I can't tell them to get the ashes out of there, so you're going to have to. You have the authority. The only person there that's not of the actual church is the captain that can take that out of there. He's the only one that has that authority. And again, I think that Zangwill probably just hate his guts. But it gets crazier because, yes, Zangwill kills Klein, the fellow that kept disrupting his plans. Using the remaining Death Descendant characteristics, he set up a ritual, consumed the ashes, and successfully advanced from Sequence 5 of the Death Pathway, Gatekeeper, to Sequence 4 of the Sleepless Pathway, Night Watcher. What? So, okay, this makes me assume that the Beyonder that the ashes came from, which I assume is from a Selena, this Beyonder was possibly a Sequence 4 Sleepless Pathway Night Watcher, and that would explain why if he consumes this, he's able to gain her position in the pathway. That's crazy. Now, it says before then, he used the remaining of his Death Descendant characteristics. He used the remaining of his powers, the remaining of what he had of that power, to set up a ritual. So it almost implies he has to sacrifice, or at least use the ability within that sequence to create the ritual. Either way, he creates the ritual. And in that ritual, he's able to consume the ashes. So this is part of this entire ritual that he's able to consume it. But the crazy thing is that he literally jumped a pathway, which I don't think at this point they've ever implied that. I assumed eventually that was what's going to happen to Klein. I assumed that Klein was going to be special in this world in that he was going to be able to have two different pathways. I figured that was eventually going to happen. But my assumption there was based on the idea that he was going to have two different forms. His Klein form inside this world, the physical body that he is within, Klein himself, this corpse that he is, embodied, and then the soul of our main character who's able to go to this other plane, the Fool, basically. Those two are both going to have different pathways that they can consume a potion for. This implies, maybe it's just, again, strictly to what some crazy stuff he did with the death pathway. He was able to essentially jump from one to another. And it seems like it could be for two different reasons. One is that he just wanted to become a Night Watcher. He knew of what the Sleepless Pathway could do, or what a Night Watcher could do. Or he just wanted to be Sequence 4 because that's the point which they become a demigod. This is like, again, sort of a milestone, I guess. Going up the sequences, 4 is like, you're there. Like, you're getting there. Like, you're not a god, but you're a demigod. You're like, this is the point which you're becoming demigod. This is the status that you're becoming. Very interesting. Very interesting. I was actually like, wait, that just said a different sequence. This is a different pathway. This is a completely different pathway. What the hell? Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Curious what that's going to lead to. And it does make me kind of wonder, does he keep everything he had from before? Is he essentially right now going to have everything of the previous pathway as he progresses in a new pathway? And that makes me wonder, could it possibly sort of benefit each other? Do these two aspects benefit each other in some way? It's super cool. It's super cool. But yeah, it wraps up saying that Tengen City never realized how they narrowly escaped a huge disaster. But it says the Tengen story ends here. The quill is done writing about Tengen. It's done. This town's done. We got everything that we wanted here. We're gonna move on for somewhere else. This dude that is now a demigod, gatekeeper. I'm kind of curious now what a gatekeeper possibly does. Do they possibly open up the gate to another realm, spiritual realm, something like that? Kind of sounds very similar to Azek's. He had a gateway. I don't know. But yeah, once that was all concluded, we kind of jumped around to kind of show how everybody was handling the aftermath. The little shot of Melissa with Benson. She's like, you're always frugal or whatever, but now I see why you were buying something so expensive. You wanted to help him relax. And then Leonard shows up, has to deliver the message. Dude, it sucks. I'm convinced that Leonard's going to go like super dark red glove mode. Like this guy's going to become a red glove and he's going to be like full on vengeance, going to be going after this guy, which does make me believe that eventually Leonard's going to run into Klein again. He's going to be a red glove. They're probably going to be both on the tail of Zangwill and eventually kind of bumping each other, which would be really cool. But yeah, then we get the funeral. Again, that hurt. You got Dally over there with the picture of Dunn. Melissa dropping the whistle in there, which I think the whistle's going to have something to do with his revival. And the robot turtle. The robot turtle got me. The moment she put the robot turtle and she started like just bawling, I'm like, no. The robot turtle that she brought him just to kind of calm him down and help him relax. It sucks. Azek showing up, apologizing, so that he didn't make it in time, but he knows who did it. But then yes, we start to hear Harnicus again. Harnicus. And the tome opens up and a hand comes out. Yep, Klein survived. Truth be told, when I watched this episode initially, it was late at night and I was waiting for a video to process and I was really annoyed by YouTube. And I got about to the point where the quill started kind of revealing all of what was going on. And at some point I had to pause it and I went back to my other work. And then it wasn't until the next day before I finally finished the episode. But during that gap of time, yes, I know, crazy, right? I watched the episode in 2 parts. During the time between watching the 2 parts, I had 2 predictions going on in my head. The first prediction was that Klein was going to die for real, and he was not going to come back, which could lead to the idea of this being sort of one of those stories of Klein was never the main character, but he is the orchestrator. And that he will become the guy that's always on that throne up in the fog realm, and he's going to be pulling up people that he's going to use to get his revenge. He's going to have Justice go down there and do stuff. He's going to have Hangman go down there and do stuff. He's going to bring people up there and revive Dunn, send him down there. He's going to be the orchestrator, and he will never be the main perspective ever again. He will always be this deity. My other prediction was going to be that he would get revived by Azek eventually. That Azek would come in there, dig him up, and then revive him. But I thought that my theory of Klein not being the main character, I thought was a really cool idea. I kind of thought it would go that direction. But yes, he survives, he revives. Now, it's not completely clear as to why he survives. Now, he does say once he arrives in the fog realm, he says the whistle counts as a burial offering. Now, he could just be saying that because, again, she dropped that down in there when he was being buried, and he's just saying that. And again, this is the whistle from Azek. So my question mark here really is, did he survive because he's technically a deity? Did he survive because Azek's whistle was placed there and the powers from Azek was able to revive him? I don't think that's the case, but it could be. I don't know. Either way, he survives. He says, what am I now? So he's even questioning himself. Is he an undead? Is he a zombie? What am I? He says, perhaps just an evil spirit clawing its way back from hell to seek revenge. You got a damn good reason to. After what happened to Dunn and what happened to you, I say yes. I say yes. Then he points out those coincidences were orchestrated by the abilities of the sealed artifact, which again, we kind of acknowledged at this point. What was written there is destined to happen. No, there should be certain restrictions. Again, this is what I'm thinking too. I think this is playing out similar to what I've seen in other stories where it has to have some sort of logic behind it. You can't just say turn around now unless there'd be a reason why the person would turn around. Zangwill's goal was to get the ashes. That means the target wasn't me, but instead the captain. Again, I agree there because the captain was the one that had the authority. And that's when he does a divination. He does 3 different divinations and they all lead to the same location. Where is Zangwill? Where is Lanavis? And where is my biggest hope for becoming powerful? And all goes to Backlund. So we're going to Backlund. We're still going to end up going there. Good stuff, good stuff. Yeah, and they kind of wrapped up the episode with Klein going around checking out Dunn's grave, going to his house very briefly. Melissa, it seemed like she might have seen him. Ugh, just go tell her, dude. I always hate this about these stories. I really always hate this about these stories. It's like, why don't they just go there and say, hey, I'm still alive. I don't want you to worry. I don't want you to anguish for the next like 3 or 4 plus years over my death. I'm okay. You can't ask any questions. I just have to go. But I wanted you to know that I'm okay. Something like that. I hate this whole idea they can't say anything. But again, it does imply later on he goes to the market with them and dresses up as a clown and gives them a symbol of happiness. I hope that she picked up on it. I just hope that she picked up on it. She looked kind of happy. And then, yes, we end the episode with him going to Backlund, goes to the capital and gets a rental, and now calling himself Sherlock Moriarty. How cheesy can they... What? Can you get a more cheesier name than Sherlock Moriarty? Come on. Come on. And that wraps up the episode. Crazy, crazy stuff, dude. Absolutely incredible episode. Let me double check, make sure I covered everything. I have a ton of notes. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the episode. Yeah, again, really incredible episode. Really fantastic stuff. The incredible fight sequence. Absolutely gut-wrenching scene with Dunn stepping up, being an absolute badass, which he's always been a badass. He's always going to be a badass. And even in his death, he's going to be a badass. Just absolutely incredible stuff. Just all the crazy reveals around the quill, which we've kind of seen was coming. Just kind of opening up this master plan, which does really make me question, like, Klein. He's going to have to do a lot of building up. If he's going to take on a sequence 4 with the quill, he's going to have to do some power leveling. He's going to have to do some incredible power leveling. But again, that's where he needs to go in order to get his growth. But his growth could be in the idea of actually taking on something like that. That could be as well. But that's crazy. I'd be interested to kind of see how that all plays out. If he's going to possibly have a run-in with Audrey and all them, would be cool as well. I'm not sure if Azek's going to go back. I don't know if Azek's going to be over there or if he's going to stay in Tingen at this point, but we'll see. But I'm definitely looking forward to Season 2 at this point. Again, 2027, I believe, is the current roadmap they have for Season 2, so it's going to be a bit away. But continue to cook. The incredible budget that Tencent has been putting into this series so far has been outstanding, and the quality of everything has been outstanding. And hopefully now that they've kind of, again, as they said in their own words, sort of try to push forward the pacing to get to these certain points, hopefully things will start kind of slowing down and it'll get to a really solid pacing and really kind of just flesh out this world. Because, as I've stated before, the big key thing that I've really loved about the series so far is just, it feels like this writer has so much stuff in his head as he's writing this out. Like, it feels like so much was already kind of pre-established, and there's so much complexity to the world itself that it feels alive. It really does make the story feel alive about how much detail he has in it. Anyways, that is my thoughts on the finale of Lord of Mysteries. Absolutely incredible season, and I cannot wait for more. I greatly appreciate everybody's checking out my videos on a weekly basis. My Lord of Mysteries videos did very, very well on a weekly basis, and I really appreciate you guys' support and going through this journey along with me. But yeah, until it returns in 2027, I hope you'll stick around, subscribe to the channel, check out my other content that I have. But until next time, I'll take care.